elevator pitches that leave a lasting impression. Hopefully, you're in the right place. And hopefully, by the end, you'll have something that will leave a lasting impression. So, my name is Kimberley Briesch Sumner, and I'm a senior lecturer at the American Language Institute. That's ALI. And this is a joint venture with OIS, Office of International Services. Some of you may be familiar with that office. Today we have our director of ALI over here. Just give him a little wave if you see him.
Thanks for
Some of the people who's helped make this happen. So, yeah, so welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I guess one of the questions I have is, how many of you were actually at the career fair today? There was a career fair going on. Some of you may be thinking, what career fair? We had another career fair, actually. We've got career services in the back. It was in week 4?
Yep.
Yeah. So we had a career fair in week 4. And then I believe, is it Viterbi's? Or whose career fair was it today? Viterbi, that's what I thought. Sometimes it's over there in the Viterbi quad area, but I think they moved it this year, so it's great. Anyway, so if you attended the career fair or any career fair before, you may have done an elevator pitch. And so if you haven't, if you didn't know you did it, maybe you were doing it anyway. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what that is and hopefully how to make it stronger over the next hour and 10 minutes. All right. How many of you are feel like you have your own elevator pitch? Some of you may think, I don't know really what that is, but I know that it's important for my career, right? All right, good. I like to always start out with this comic because, of course, we all know what an elevator is, or I would assume we would. And then, of course, yeah, why do we call it an elevator pitch? But then we have the escalator pitch, and just to be safe, we have the stairway pitch. Just a little bit of humor, because we're still working on learning that. So anyway, forget the humor. I hope. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. There we go. All right, so we're going to start with the etymology of the word pitch. Of course, you see this baseball player. Any Dodgers fans out there? All right, yeah, we're doing all right this season. I don't know if the most recent game is though. Pitch, we oftentimes think of it as baseball. In 1833, it came about as a word meaning the act of throwing. Okay, so you may again think elevator pitch. What does that have to do with throwing? We're going to talk a little bit about that. By the mid-1800s, a little bit after that, 1833, we had started to incorporate that into American baseball. And so, again, that's why we associate pitching with the person that's standing on the mound, right, throwing the ball. All right, in 1943, we incorporated the word pitch into sales. So we have any marketing or business people out there? Sales is, and of course, if anybody has ever bought anything before? Yeah, all right. You may have encountered somebody selling you something, they were giving you a sales pitch, right? So that came about in 1943. All right, now, you may be thinking, well, when are we going to get to the elevator pitch? So here it is. An elevator pitch is still used as a way to quickly pitch an idea or product, but it has been adapted. Some of you may think about, pitching an idea. We have also adapted the elevator pitch to a 30 to 60 second, roughly, introduction about yourself. Okay, and this with the specific purpose of promoting yourself, kind of an American style. We want to tell others a little bit more about ourselves and some ways we may feel like it's bragging, right? Doing a little bit to promote ourselves. Maybe thinking again, why is it an elevator pitch? It can be completed in theory. The reason why it's so short is so that way you could do it on a short ride in an elevator as soon as you enter and you go up the elevator, and before you leave, you've hopefully had your opportunity to meet somebody important. Think about a time when maybe you're in a very big building and the CEO of a company is standing right next to you, and you have that golden opportunity, right? That opportunity that says, it's now or never. I have to either introduce myself and have something interesting to say, or maybe if you're an inventor or something, you want to pitch your product. If you're in film, maybe you want to pitch your idea for a television show or a movie to that big director. Say Steven Spielberg comes on campus, right? You want to have that opportunity. So those people are very busy people, and you want to do it quickly. So stick to the basics, really, but get attention. All right. I've already given some really good places where we might use the elevator pitch. Tell me where, based on what we've mentioned already, and maybe some of your other experiences, where do you use the elevator pitch? At the job fair, right? Today, if you were at the job fair, you probably use the elevator pitch. Where else could we use the elevator pitch?
Networking events.
Somewhere in the back?
Networking events.
Networking events, absolutely. Don't forget you could use it in the elevator. Kidding. Nobody could. Any other places? That's what the top two. Yeah. All right. You might use it at a panel or a lecture. Again, whenever you're meeting somebody, maybe. Have you ever considered that a job interview is a chance for you to use your elevator pitch? How many of you have gone on a job interview and the first question they ask is, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? As soon as they say that, your elevator pitch is something that you can use to help you. Student organization meetings. We have lots of student organizations on campus, academic, professional, as well as social. Whenever you network at those events, the first couple of times you attend, you might be practicing your elevator pitch. And as I mentioned before, we have elevators. All right, so with each of these, the important thing to think about is, well, a student organization meeting may be quite different from a job interview, right? So one of the key things about your elevator pitch that you need to think about is changing it, adapting it based on the situation. Okay? So we're going to talk today a little bit about that closer to the end, but they definitely need to be adaptable to the situation. All right. So what is the goal of an elevator pitch? It allows you to provide important information about who you are. Your job during an elevator pitch is to get the attention of the person that you're talking to. If you sound like everyone else, then the person you're talking to will treat you like everyone else. You may not catch their attention. And the third reason is to get you involved in a conversation. So whenever you have your elevator pitch and you use it and you're interesting, the next thing out of the person you're talking to's mouth should be a question. And that question should be, I want to know more. Tell me more about, it's not really a question if I say tell you more, but you know what I mean. The idea is that you want them to ask you a question about what you just said, so that way they can learn more about you. And then guess what? That elevator pitch that's 30 seconds could become 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes could be life-changing. Whenever you consider you could be talking to one of the representatives out at the career fair who spends a little bit longer with you because you invested the time in practicing and creating a very good elevator pitch. If you find that CEO by some chance in the elevator. Okay. So we have, I think on your handout, a little bit of information that kind of guides us into the basic format of the elevator pitch. The first one is we want to make sure that whenever you begin, you say who you are. Okay, that's important. We also want to say what you do. We also want to say what you have done. And then whenever we do that, we can think of different ways of doing that. We can consider the things you've done. Did you solve a problem? Did you make some kind of impact on something? Did you create some positive results? Some of you may be thinking, well, I haven't done anything special. Okay. I'm hoping many of you are saying, I've got a lot of things I could say. That gives you choices. But for those of you who are thinking, I don't really have a lot of things to say, you know, maybe you're first and you're just getting your career started, think about any kind of organizations that you've been involved in, any kind of group work that you've done in your classes. Did you take an active role? Did you participate in any special way? If you're not doing these things, try to incorporate them now, right? Because you have that opportunity now as a student to create those situations. But chances are many of you have those situations. And when you can speak to those situations, no matter how simple, you can absolutely promote yourself in a way that will make you sound interesting. So it's kind of like your resume. In some ways, your resume is like a soul-searching endeavor. You're trying to put together that resume, and you want it to look great. You want people to be impressed by it. Take some of the things that you've done from that resume and now think about how you can incorporate them into a 30-second chat about yourself. All right. Last but not least, think about what you want to do. This may be one of the most important things that you can do for your elevator pitch because it tells the person you're talking to what your goals are, where you want to be in 6 months, a year, 5 years. It tells them what your motivations are, what your interests are, and tells them whether or not you and that other person are compatible in a certain sense. Gives you an opportunity to share that information and then them to see if it's a good match. All right, so we like to do who are you, what do you do, what have you done, and what do you want to do? Does that look like something familiar? Number 2, what do you do happens when? We'll do a little dialogue analysis here. What do you do is now. All right? 3, what have you done? We're going to go to the past. And then we're going to top it off with number 4. What do you want to do in the future? All right. So let's take a look at a couple of sample elevator pitches. All right. You have these on your handout, so you can absolutely look at them. There are 2. We'll go through each of them, but you can look at them both together. We're going to take a look at some of the features of this particular example, and I have a few of you answer the questions for me. So the first question, of course, is does Martha's pitch answer our main questions? First one, who are you? Does she answer that question? And how does she do it? My name's. All right. Of course, that sounds a little informal. You could, but whenever you have rapid speech, it tends to my name tends to sound more like my name's Kimberley, Briesch, Sumner, right? Or my name's Martha Green in this case. So don't be worried. Oral speech has a little bit of a different sound to it than the written speech. What do you do? What parts focus on what do you do? I'm currently studying. Of course, the word currently really helps us out there. Okay? And then we know where. Anything else? Okay. What about number 3? What have you done?
It's not there.
It's not really there. Okay, so this one we could try to add a little bit more. Okay.
Nonprofit programs and fellowships is what is not.
Oh, that's true. That's true because nonprofit programs and fellowships were a key part of my development. All right. So think about this. It may not have to have the same order, right? Because somewhere in the middle there it says I'm interested in. When she says that? What is she saying? What question is she answered? Number 4. What do you want to do? Okay. So in some cases, we may kind of be flexible with the order on these. So I'm interested in securing an entry-level role at a nonprofit that allows me to teach and develop curriculum. That's a mouthful, right? A lot of good words there. But that is definitely an answer to number 4. And then because nonprofit programs and fellowships were a key part of my development in the past, it's important for me to pay it forward. What about that section there? It's important for me to pay it forward. What does that answer? What question does that answer?
Why does she want the job?
All right. Why does she want the job? Number 4. What does she want to do? Right. All right. Are there any? Is there anything there that is unfamiliar to anyone out there as far as like expressions or vocabulary?
Is it awkward just like sharing what your greatest strength is in a pitch?
Say that again.
Isn't it awkward to like go straight to what your greatest strength is on an elevator pitch? Doesn't it sound like arrogant?
If you don't have that's a really good point. If you don't have a lot of time, you have to promote yourself, and that's what we were talking about at the beginning. The purpose of the elevator pitch is to self-promote. So yes, it seems a little bit arrogant. It seems a little bit like you're bragging about yourself. But absolutely important to do if you have the right person in front of you. And strengths, talking about your strengths isn't really saying that, it's not a really strong way of introducing that. It's kind of a soft way. Basically someone who knows themselves and can achieve certain things and has proof of that. If we have things on our resume that demonstrate those skills and those strengths, then we could probably say, yeah.
How can I make sure that what I have done is attractive to employees?
That's something we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but a lot of it is going to be knowing the situation, okay? Kind of in a short, long way to describe it. So if you're at a career fair, what is one of the ways that you can know how to adapt your elevator pitch to one company versus another company? Because you should. How will you know that? Anybody have an answer? Yeah?
Because you're looking for different positions, different jobs,
And how do you know about those different positions?
we're looking for surgeon.
You may have a job description. You also may check out the company website, right? Company website's going to have things like their mission. And if their mission is to save a certain number of lives in Africa, then you're probably going to want to adapt your pitch if that's where you want to work, to mention your strong interest in that, or maybe something that you have done there. I mean, not everyone's had that opportunity, but you know, if you are interested in that particular sector, then that might be something you mention. Computer skills, you know, maybe again, a different type of job, right? Being able to research that in advance. So it takes a little time and it takes a lot of practice to adapt and change your elevator pitch and to know what to say to the right person. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, the practice my self-practice or practice to the real employer, right? If I practice to the real one, okay, the first time I fail, next time I failed 100 times, but the time's passed.
Right, so you fail 100 times and then what was that?
The time passed, maybe 3 months passed, right? But I don't have that a lot of time. I only have 1 month, for example, right?
Right.
So how can I shorten that time?
How can you shorten that time?
Yeah.
There are, again, if you're focused on getting a job, for example, the multiple exposures. So there's a career fair that comes only once a semester or a couple times a semester, right? Not enough time, not enough practice. You're going to be talking to your roommates. You're going to be talking to your family members. You're going to be talking to your friends, your colleagues in your classes, practicing. You're going to talk to your professors. And you're going to practice with your professor, your advisors. You're going to practice at networking events. Be actively looking for social events and networking events and professional groups that have things happening either on campus or just outside of campus. So the more times and more different exposures you have to different people, the better chance you have. I can't guarantee that we're absolutely going to get a job in a month if we, but we're going to increase our chances. Okay. Yeah, great. All right, I'm going to move on. So we just highlight some of the different words that kind of help us capture some of the answers to those questions. We'll just move on to the second one. Answer some of these questions really quickly. How about Amy Wise? Does she do a good job answering our questions? Number 1. She says who she is. Does saying who you are always mean just saying your name? Who are you? Who is Amy Wise? She's a graduate, right? She's finished, yeah? All right, she's an editor. Anything else that she is? So keep in mind that whenever you describe who you are, think of all of the jobs that you have, right? That are, again, professional in nature, or that qualify you for the situation that you're trying to be in the future, or that you are in at the time talking to the person. Who was she? What did she do?
Worked on the college newspaper.
She worked on the college newspaper as a reporter. That's what she did. That's who she was. And probably also right? Being an editor, kind of part of who she is. Those things are kind of connected. What else? Is there anything else? She's also passionate about writing stories about athletes, right? So that kind of gives a good description of who she is as well. What does she want to do? She wants to write
for sports
She wants to write for sports magazines, and she wants to have a special focus, right, on how athletes got the opportunity to play for major teams. And then there's a why. So we can think about how we craft our own elevator pitch to make this interesting. I think Amy is much more interesting whenever I read that she wants to motivate the younger generation, if I'm that person, than if she just tells me she was a reporter and that now she's an editor, right? So this is how you find something about yourself, like whenever you talk about your goals, something that you want to do in the future, try to know who the person is you're talking to. Know the mission of the company. Trying to think, there's different companies have different charities that they donate to. You can find out on websites, on their website, and as soon as you say something that has a focus that is similar to their focus, then you might catch someone's attention. Yeah. All right, questions about this one? All right, so again, some language that might be useful to catch attention. All right, so this is a little bit kind of a review of what we've just been talking about, but it kind of lays it out for you. So the main points of your elevator pitch. Again, the question, who are you? You can include any number of these things, and again, more if you find something that will fit. Who are you? What is your name? What is your occupation? Are you a former student? Are you a student? Are you a postdoc? Okay. Tell us where you are in your career. What is your year in school? Are you a freshman or are you a graduating senior? Are you ABD? I don't want to say all that, but you might want to say I'm second year master's student. So put yourself in a position so people know, are you graduating soon? Are you a potential candidate for an internship, for a job? Don't hesitate to indicate your major, your degree objective, and your department. All right. Next one, what do you do? Again, just kind of summarizing. Include any relevant professional or academic groups, any academic coursework, any research, any special skills or abilities that will benefit the conversation that you hope to have, that will capture the attention of the person you are talking to. What have you done? And again, you can also capture attention by adding some details such as this: problem solving, some kind of impact that you made, some kind of positive result. Many of you are here at USC because you're amazing. Actually, all of you are here because you're amazing. It's really hard to get into USC. And The reason why you're here is because you had something special that captured the attention of the committee that selected you. Don't sell yourself short. Don't be afraid to promote yourself and tell others what you've done, how you've done it, what kind of positive impact you have made on your community, on your family, on the world, your country, whatever it may be, okay? What have you done? You've done a lot. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Okay? People that do things in the past tend to not stop, right? We tend not to stop doing things. If we're doers and we're making change and we're having positive effects, we tend to have goals that move us forward into something amazing, into our future, right? So again, think about what type of internship, what kind of job you want, kinds of skills or benefits that can bring you into that relationship. Are you hoping to start a startup? Sounds kind of repetitive. Are you hoping to start a company, right? Maybe you want to help children in some way, or help the elderly, right? There are lots and lots of things that you can draw upon based on your major. You want to fix the environment. All right. So the elevator pitch is not just what you say; it's how you say it. Okay. And so we're going to talk next about other factors to consider as you say your elevator pitch, and then we're going to try and bring it all together. Of course, we don't have a ton of time since we're done around 5:20. So here you go. The things that we need to think about are using clear and understandable pronunciation, using correct grammar, using word choices that are appropriate, and also body language. Okay, whenever you're talking to someone, all of these factors also play into your pitch, not just what you actually say. Okay, now if your pronunciation is difficult to understand, then your message is lost, right? If your grammar is incorrect, then there is a distraction factor, okay? So there's definitely, we want to make sure that whenever we practice it correctly and clearly, okay? So that's important. Of course, word choices can elevate you to the next level. You can sound very educated with your word choices, or you can sound less educated with your word choices. You can sound too educated with your word choices. Beware, because sometimes whenever we try to sound educated, we over-choose our words. So our word choices have lots of different things to consider. Body language. If our body language says we're not excited and interested in what we're talking about, you will lose your audience, okay? Of course, the audience being the person that you're introducing yourself to, and that is far from what you want. A couple of things here. You've got the different, body language positions. The defensive standing position. This one is one you want to try to avoid in American culture. This one's considered, as you do that, right? This one's considered more closed, right? And less open. So we tend to, whenever we introduce ourselves and we are around other people in a mixer and a networking situation, we want to avoid the closed body and the closed attitude. We want to have that more open appearance in our body language. So that one's super important. All right. So let me talk a little bit about the pronunciation pitfalls that we can have. And you're going to laugh at me. I'm going to say, learn how to say your name. Okay? You've had your name for your whole life, and when you come to another country, you may find that you have to repeat your name 1,000 times until someone understands it, right? Okay. If you say your name slowly and clearly, You increase the chances of the person knowing your name, remembering your name. If you say it too quickly, then it just becomes a blur of what you're trying to say to the person, okay? So know your name. And try to adapt it a little bit to the ear of the person that you're speaking to. So if you know you're speaking to an American, a native English speaker, then you want to try to imitate how an American might say it. Now, there's certain things like with Chinese pronunciation, for example, I work with a lot of Chinese students, like the name H-E, right? When people see that, they're going to naturally call it he, right? That doesn't mean you have to introduce yourself as he, okay? You can say your name huh, if I say it right, or close, but again, have an accent that sounds more native-like to an English speaker, okay? Case in point, I was in France, my name is Kimberley, right? Whenever I go to France and I introduce myself, I don't say je m'appelle Kimberley, right? It doesn't sound right. Whenever I'm in France, what do? My name sounds different. It's Kimberley. Je m'appelle Kimberley. Bonjour, ça va? Right? All right. I have to adapt my name a little bit so it's easier for the person hearing. Okay? So, not to take too long about your name, but it's definitely something to consider. If you have a long name, you have to slow it down. Okay? Even if you have a short name, again, think about the vowel sounds, think about the consonant sounds that make it difficult for someone that's not from your country to understand. All right? Know how to say your major, department, and school. Again, that's where I go. But there are lots of different ways that we can say, again, the accent changes. Viterbi. I hear that one a lot, but Americans say Viterbi, but I hear my students say Viterbi, right? It sounds different, and it's not clear and easy to understand if you say Viterbi. I'm thinking, what is that? What is it? And then your message is lost because you've already moved on to the next sentence, and I'm still fixed on what is Viterbi, right? All right, so think about that. Price, School of, right? Again, American Language Institute, right, where I work. Where are you from? What are your schools? What are your school names, departments? Choose.
I use industrial
Okay, from what department?
engineering.
All right, so department is the School of Engineering. Okay, Viterbi School of Engineering. And then ISE, you can say the whole thing if you want. How about you?
Computer science,
In what department? Or what school?
engineering.
Okay. Engineering school, School of Engineering. All right. The school. Whose school? Usually there's a name attached to it, right? What are you in Viterbi? All right. Who's not from Viterbi? Okay.
Annenberg School of Communication.
All right. Annenberg School for Communication. Good. Excellent. Someone in the back, yeah.
Annenberg School of Communication Journalism.
All right. And Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Journalism, not an easy word to say. It's really long, right? Again, making sure it's clear. And when you say it with confidence, right? Make it, if you're going to say the whole thing, commit to saying it. Don't just get a little bit weak and nervous and unconfident at the end, all right? How about yours?
School.
Which one? Gould. Gosh, that's a tough name. Gould School of what?
School of Law.
Okay, School of Law. So we have to say the whole thing, of course, until, once we get out of USC, then not everybody knows the schools, right? Of course, if you're within the schools, here many people know the different schools. And we want to go ahead and say that department and the school as well. All right. Know how to say keywords. Just any keywords. Again, if journalism is your thing, and you're in Annenberg, use that keyword.
Analyze.
Which one?
Analyze.
Analyze. Oh, okay. If the keyword
Analysis.
or the keywords you use is analyze, like something that you like to do, something that's related to your work. Make sure that it doesn't sound like something else. Okay. So research your keywords in your pitch. Those keywords tend to be verbs, tend to be nouns, tend to be adjectives. Okay. That doesn't mean don't say the other words correctly, but those are the harder ones. They're the longer ones. They're the content ones that really count. And again, just to kind of indicate or support the whole thing, just don't forget to slow down. Okay? It's hard whenever you have 30 seconds. You've given yourself 30 seconds and you have a lot to say. But we had some students who were finishing Martha Green's information in about 30 seconds, right? So if that's comfortable for you, then you know about how many sentences you can use, you know about how many words you can use, okay? And modify it depending on how much time you have and how much interest you have with the person you're talking to. Yes.
What if my school name is too long?
If your school name is too long, I hate to say shorten it because, of course, there's a reason why they have that name. If you're in Annenberg, it's School of Communication and Journalism. It's not too bad. If you practice it, it'll come out faster. Yeah.
Can I just leave out the school name? Is that just say my major?
You could, absolutely, and it depends on who you're talking to and what your choices may be. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but more than anything, I just would say some of you may be thinking there's so much that I could say, and then you think, well, how in the world do I do it? And the key here is, and I'm going to mention it later on, but for those of you who may have to leave before we're done, write it all down. Write every bit that you might want to say at any time down and practice it all. Even if your elevator pitch is a minute and 30 seconds, even if it's 2 minutes long, practice all of it, because the better you know all of those components, you can select the ones that you need at any given time. You can pull this one out and say, I don't need that one this time, but I'm going to use this, right? It all happens up here. Our brains are incredibly smart, right? Incredibly adaptable, but it doesn't do it without practice, okay? So I always tell students, make your elevator pitch the longest it can possibly be. When you speak to someone, shorten it to fit the situation that you're in. We do have some grammatical errors that frequently happen. We want to introduce ourselves with the correct grammar. Saying something like, hi, my name is, or my name's, right? As we were looking at Martha Briesch, is appropriate. You might say, I am. Hi, I'm Kimberley. Nice to meet you. That's fine. Make sure you're not saying this is, okay? Unless you're introducing a friend, okay? So this is not a typical way to introduce yourself. When you're introducing your major, I'm majoring in, or my major is appropriate. But make sure you're not saying I major in. I major in chemical engineering. I am majoring in. Okay, and that one takes practice too. If you're done with it, make sure that you're saying I majored in past tense. That's what happens sometimes with the last one. Department, this is an example of a way you can say it. It's not the only way you can say it, but it's a way to put it all together. I'm a graduate student. I'm an undergraduate student. I'm a law student in the department of, in the school of, whichever one fits. Insert your school or department at the University of Southern California. notice the prepositions. These are important. These can be distracting if they're wrong. Okay? So nail them and don't make that mistake again if you've made that mistake before. Okay. All right. All right. We have very common grammatical errors in verb tense. Again, we talked about what do I do? What did I do? What will I do? Make sure your verb tenses are there. Make sure it's clear what you've done, where you've been, where you're going. Okay? That's important. The next one, subject-verb agreement. If you've worked with a particular person, a lot of times we forget that S, right, on the verb. So you can definitely make sure that you have the S on the subject-verb agreement. It's one of the most common errors. And sometimes it's pronunciation, but just make sure that the S is there whenever you're using he, she, or it. Okay, or person. Last but not least, we have singular and plural nouns, another very, very common mistake. Just forgetting to add the S. Okay? You could go back and look at Martha's or Amy's information. Because nonprofit program and fellowship were a key part of my development. What's missing? Nonprofit program and fellowship. Right? Missing those S's. Programs and fellowships. Right? Making sure that you don't omit S's on things that are plural. It's a very common mistake. All right. All right, so here's a couple of notes about the vocabulary. Remember, writing is more formal than speaking, okay? So when you're speaking, you don't have to stay to a level of formality that sounds like writing. So be careful not to be too formal, but also not too informal. And definitely a balance is better whenever it comes to choosing, like, again, more academic words versus less academic words. Right? So somewhere in the middle. If you use a higher level word, make sure that the next word that could be higher level is a reduced in level. So that way, again, it balances out. And don't overdo it, as I mentioned before. Using too many complicated or technical words doesn't make you sound any smarter. It just confuses the message. Okay, I always tell students in my writing classes, when you're paraphrasing what somebody famous said, your job is to make it easy for the reader to understand you. So if the concept is difficult that you're trying to describe, it's great that that person, the very, very highly educated genius wrote it, and we had to struggle through it to read all that information and understand it. Our job as writers, our job as speakers is to simplify the message so that way everyone's take home is, I totally remember that, not I don't remember what it was because it was too complicated. Okay? So keep that in mind with your vocabulary. These are some good words to use, so you can take those down. Being adept at something is a higher level word. Totally acceptable, just don't make other words too high. Proficient, great. Notice that each one of these has a preposition after it. So if you're adept, you're not adept with, you're adept at. If you're proficient, you're not proficient at. Well, you can say I'm proficient at something. I should add that. But we're oftentimes also proficient in something. Okay? I might be savvy with something. I'm not savvy at something as much. I'm talented at, effective in, or effective with. You can also use accomplish. We use it with have. Notice the first set is with be, and the second set is with have. I have accomplished something. I have expertise in something. I have a knack for something. This is like more common, more informal language that makes you it puts you on the same level, but it's not a way, it doesn't minimize your education in either. It's just a comfortable way of speaking, okay? So any of those are perfectly fine whenever you're talking to someone about yourself. Here are some additional things to think about with body language. If you're doing some of these activities, it may have the undesired effect. If you blink too much, you could say that it could show that you're nervous or anxious. Okay? So try to stay calm, even though it's a big opportunity that you're talking to someone. Of course, we talked already about arms crossed, how that means closed. Lowering your head shows that you're not feeling very confident about something. Okay? Could also be hiding the truth or hiding something. We tend to be very face-forward society, right? So you see how the woman's standing? It may be a little bit on the assertive, strong side, but in business, in jobs, we want to promote ourselves. So having our shoulders strong, facing forward, our bodies facing forward, no arms crossed. We're going to have the body language that says, I feel confident about myself and I'm ready to get the job. I'm ready to meet you and take on whatever opportunity comes my way. Okay. They even have a little note about how you sit. So, gentlemen, if you have your legs open, and in a job interview, make sure that you're not quite so relaxed. If you have your leg, your arms back, your head up, be careful about that. Of course, we talked a little bit about posture, so a little bit about that. We have volume, like how loud we speak. If you're a quiet speaker, try to speak a little bit louder. Eye contact I mentioned, hand gestures. We use a lot of hand gestures. We may not be Italian in the United States, but we do use a lot of hand gestures. We talked about the handshake. One of the things that you may have noticed is Americans smile a lot. Okay, smiling is another sign that we're confident. Okay, and so if you are smiling, it doesn't mean that you're not genuine. It has the symbol, it has the idea that we're feeling confident about ourselves and we're open and friendly. Yeah.
What's with the eyebrows?
Let's see here. The eyebrows it's a way of showing enthusiasm in some way. So raised eyebrows could say that you are intrigued with what the person is saying. So we're really expressive with our faces, and our eyebrows when they raise is a way for us to show interest, right? And so yeah, that's another good one. We talked about the handshake, so it's just to kind of emphasize that a little bit. P.J. O'Rourke is an American political satirist and journalist, and he has something to say about that handshake. It gives you the good first impression, and you'll never be forgiven if you don't live up to it. I mean, it may be a little serious there, but somebody said, somebody important said something about it, and it just basically demonstrates how important that handshake can be. Just kind of emphasizing the smile. And you may notice here that a lot of countries that have lots of immigration have a lot of nonverbal communication. Probably part of the reason why we do smile so much here is we have people from all over the world, and the best way to show that you're comfortable around somebody and welcoming to people who are coming from other places is through the smile. And that comes from an article from me. Right. I would say try again, but maybe we'll reserve the time to try again one more time till the end for anyone who wants to stay and do that. Last but not least, a couple of things to remind ourselves about being successful. This is what I mentioned earlier. Have a longer master pitch that describes everything about yourself. okay? And then you can always adapt that master to the situation later on. Don't forget to practice, right, gentlemen who's had 1 month. And how do we do it? The only way to do it is to be really, really familiar with yourself and master it through practice. Oh yeah, practice. And yeah, don't forget to practice. Okay. A couple of other things, and then this is, I think, my last slide. If you find a good example, don't be afraid to use it. Okay. If you talk to somebody else in a networking event and they say something that matches your interests or something in your life, or they use a word or expression that you like, there's nothing that says you can't use that later on for yourself. Incorporate it into your pitch. Be aware of what other people say and try to use that. Notice what gets attention. So if you're in a group and you're networking, you meet with one person and they seem not interested, something's not working. You meet with someone else, you change it a little bit, and they're engaged. Maybe you changed something for the better, right? Maybe you made an improvement that will capture. Try it again. If it's successful again, maybe you have something. If you try it again and there's no interest, maybe it was that person who had a good match, right? So a lot of it is trial and error. But don't forget to pay attention to what gets noticed, because what gets noticed you can use again, and it might make a difference. Okay? And of course, this is related to changing your pitch over time. Don't be afraid to change it. Right? We change, our goals change. Change as you need to. Notice nonverbal cues. If someone doesn't look interested, either change what you're saying, right, in the moment, or, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Give yourself that 30 seconds, give yourself that 45 seconds to make that evaluation, and if it's not happening, know when to let it go. That is it. All right, so we have the elevator pitch review. I think we've covered a lot of those items. Just think about these for yourself. What we've talked about. What can you do to make a great impression? I hope at the end of this workshop you now have an idea. You've got some good ideas you can take home. And you can maybe even also have had some time here to incorporate those ideas for yourself. And that concludes the presentation. And I'm open to questions, knowing that some of you may need to go. I will host questions for another 5 minutes or so, however long it takes. And I wanted to also give you information here about the American Language Institute. Okay. We have a lot of classes that we offer. We do speaking skills, we do writing skills, we do specifics on pronunciation if that is your goal, to just have clear speaking. If we had a high demand of students in any particular semester, we do career job skills courses as well. So if you have an interest in that, contact ALI and ask if there's going to be if there would be a class available and in what semester. Okay. We are not currently offering that class, but if there's interest, we might be able to offer that. All right. So feel free to join us. And here's my contact information. If anybody would like to have a copy of the slides, provide those to you by email. Just send me an email. And thank you all for coming and for staying. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, I'm here for questions.